Imagine giving years of your life, sleepless nights, and every drop of your creativity to a company only to be fired in a single cold meeting. Imagine watching your own code, the thing you built line by line, get stolen right in front of your eyes by the very people you trusted. Now imagine the same executives laughing behind closed doors, thinking they got away with it. But here's what they didn't know: the code was legally mine. And when I pulled the trigger on my revenge, everything changed. This is the story of how a greedy CTO tried to erase me, how he underestimated me, and how I turned the tables so hard that the whole company shook. When I first joined the startup, it wasn't glamorous. We were sitting in a tiny room with secondhand chairs and one whiteboard that never had working markers. But what we lacked in resources, we made up for in passion. I wasn't just an employee, I was practically the backbone of the product. The CTO, who later turned out to be the villain of this story, kept saying, "We're building something revolutionary." And I believed it. I poured myself into the project. Nights turned into mornings, weekends blurred into weekdays, and I felt proud. But looking back, I now realize they were taking advantage of my trust and ambition. They saw me not as a partner in building, but as free labor they could eventually cut loose. The codebase I developed wasn't just any software. It was the engine that made the entire product work. Every feature, every system integration, every unique function was carefully designed by me. The others pitched ideas, but I built them. What they didn't understand was how deeply I had structured the system. It wasn't just functional, it was scalable, secure, and legally documented. In my personal development records, I had kept logs, time-stamped backups, and notes because I believed in transparency. Ironically, those very notes would later become the legal weapon that saved me. At that time, though, I thought we were a team. I thought we were building something together. Success changes people. As soon as investors started noticing our product, the CTO's tone shifted. Suddenly, the same guy who once thanked me for making the impossible possible started treating me like a disposable cog. Meetings became colder, my suggestions were brushed aside. Then came the whispers, rumors that I wasn't pulling, my weight, that maybe I was too slow for the company's growth. It was bizarre, because without my code, there was no company. But when money enters the picture, logic leaves. I started to see how power corrupts, and I knew something ugly was coming. It happened on a Monday morning. The CTO called me into his office with HR sitting awkwardly to the side. His words were sharp but rehearsed. "We've decided to let you go. Your work has been appreciated, but we feel your role is no longer aligned with the company's vision." I sat there in silence, trying to process. This was the same man who only months ago had told investors I was the architect of innovation. Now, he couldn't even look me in the eye. And the worst part? The very next day, I found out they had pushed my code into production as if it was theirs. They were using my blood, sweat, and brain power to cash checks, while I walked out with nothing. At least, that's what they thought. I could have sulked, but instead, I started digging. I went through my contracts, my emails, and my development records. And then I found it, the golden ticket, the intellectual property agreement. When I had joined, I hadn't signed over my ownership rights. In fact, the way the contract was worded, I legally retained full ownership of my contributions, unless otherwise stated. And guess what? They never stated it. Every line of code, every feature I built, every system they were now running, it all belonged to me. They fired me thinking they had stolen the crown jewel, but they hadn't realized I was the king who owned it. Once I knew the truth, I didn't rush. I was calm, patient, strategic. I reached out to a lawyer friend and explained everything. His eyes lit up when he read the contract. "They're in serious trouble," he said. We started drafting the legal notices. Meanwhile, I quietly watched as the company kept pitching my product to investors, signing deals, and bragging about their innovation. Every move they made, every contract they signed, every promise they gave, it was all on shaky ground. They were building a skyscraper on sand, and I was about to pull the foundation out from under them. The day finally came. My lawyer sent the cease and desist letter. It was like dropping a bomb in their office. The CTO called me in a panic. His arrogant tone was gone. He was sweating, stuttering, trying to work things out, but I wasn't in the mood for mercy. I told him straight, "You fired me, you stole my code, Now you're going to pay for it." Their investors got nervous. Deals froze. The board of directors demanded answers. The empire he thought he controlled was collapsing, all because he underestimated the quiet guy who actually held the keys. The legal battle was swift because the evidence was overwhelming. Time-stamped commits, backups, contracts, all in my favor. They tried to argue, but every move they made dug them deeper. The investors turned against the CTO. The company's reputation tanked. They had to pull the product from market until they reached a settlement with me. And when the dust settled, not only did I get compensated heavily, but the CTO lost his position. The same man who fired me in cold blood was now out of a job, while I walked away with money, recognition, and freedom. That was justice. Looking back, I realized this wasn't just about revenge, it was about self-respect. Too many times, we let corporations step on us, thinking we're powerless. But knowledge is power. If you know your rights, if you protect your work, nobody can steal from you. My story isn't just about one greedy CTO. It's about standing up against exploitation. If you're a creator, an engineer, a builder, document everything, know your contracts, and never let anyone convince you that you're disposable. Because one day, when the tables turn, you might just find yourself holding all the cards, just like I did.